This video is going to be an overview of this anvil that I built for $15. Stay tuned. So before I have the anvil that I do now, a 140-pound Trenton anvil, I wanted to build my own because the one I had was about 40 pounds and it didn't have a nice horn on it and it had a very small hardy hole. So I decided to build my own. I found this chunk of steel at the scrapyard that I was using for a while as a striking anvil. It was mirrored to that face, so it was just like a big diamond or a pyramid shape with a flat bottom. So what I did was cut off one end and I forged a horn out. The horn is mild steel as well as the body, and it had a lot of grinding on there. So to make the hardy hole, what I did was I cut 4 holes, I think about 1/2 inch holes in the corners, and then I used an oxyacetylene torch to cut out the space in between the holes, and then used a Dremel to finish it up. You can see it's a little bit smaller than the actual final dimension, so my hardy tool will be, this is about 1 inch square, so my hardy tool will probably be about 3/4 inch square, I'm guessing. And it might not be perfectly even, but I'm not too worried about that. The Pritchard hole is just, again, probably about 1/2 inch hole. And the high carbon plate is a piece of forklift tine that I found at the scrapyard. The reason why I don't have it going across the entire face is because it was the total face is about 5 inches long or wide, and this is only 4 inches. So I put it on sideways like this. I also didn't really want to mess with trying to make another hole like this, and also the Pritchard hole. So I decided to do this. Really, you don't need to use more surface area on the anvil than this first 3 inches or so. I never forge up here on the anvil anyways, so it's kind of pointless to have it go across the whole thing. The only disadvantage to this is that I couldn't use a hardy tool like, say, a fullering tool that lays across flat. I might be able to. It's probably long enough, and the thing is long enough that it'll just sit right here, so it might work. I'm not sure, but I might be limited to that. But I can still use cut-off tools and fullering dies and all that, and it'll still work fine. So there's a little disadvantage to that, but it saved me a lot of time and headache. The feet of the anvil is just a big piece of angle iron that I welded on, and it's got holes in it to drill down to the anvil base. This is gonna be really nice because most anvils don't have holes in the feet, so that this will mount really securely to the stand. This total weight of the anvil is about 65 pounds. I spent in total about $15 on this anvil. The base I got from the scrapyard for about $10. The fork tine I got for $5 because I had dropped something off there, and so I got a little bit off. So it would probably normally be like $10 or $15. So if you're buying it from scratch, you'll probably be spending about $20. But still, I mean, you can't beat this. If you're a beginner and you're looking to have your first anvil, this thing will do everything that you need. Now, you're probably going to have trouble finding the piece like this that I found. But what you can do is find multiple pieces at the scrapyard. So find a big chunk for the base right here, and then you could in fact just have the whole thing. You could just find a big piece, and it doesn't even need to be tapered right here. In fact, you'd have more weight and more surface area to forge on if this was just one big block. So if you can't find one big block, just find the biggest plates of metal you can and weld them together. And you can cut this in there too if you want. If you have those plates, you could cut an angle before you weld them together. And then as far as the horn goes, I would recommend if I was to do this again, what I would probably do is take a big piece of axle and forge that down to a point that's going to be a good high carbon. You won't even have to heat treat that if you don't want to. And you won't have quite as big of a surface area right here, but that doesn't matter too much for most projects. In fact, in this one, it's pretty flat right here, so this from here back is pretty much useless. I mean, I'm going to be using this part and forward, which is fine for what I'm going to be doing for like knives and bottle openers and such. It will work fine. You might be wondering, well, when this horn just break off? Well, it won't, because of two reasons. One is I ground chamfers into the base of the anvil and into the horn, so that I have about a 1/2 inch gap and about 1/4 inch deep, so that I'm getting deeper penetration. And also, so I was able to lay about 4 or 5 weld beads on all the way on every side. So this thing is not going anywhere. I think you could wail on it. I was hammering on it pretty hard earlier to see if it would break, and put some dents in it because it's mild steel, so I don't want to do that anymore. But I'll go ahead and show you the difference. So this is the high carbon plate, and you can see it's got a good bit of rebound to it. You got to make sure you really weld solidly all the way around. You can tell I'm a really shitty welder. I don't have much experience. I did some much better welds on other spots, but this is probably my worst spot. But you got to make sure you weld all the way around. If there's gaps, then there will be airspace in between, and you won't get any rebound. So you can see that's a good bit of rebound. It's a little bit less than my 140 pound, but you can tell the difference between the mild steel and the high carbon. And these edges, you can even see where it dented. You can see it's denting there. It's not going to break here. This is already hardened. I didn't want to mess around with tempering it anymore, because I'm assuming it was tempered to about a purple color, because it is made to flex and bear weight. So it's probably already a perfect hardness, and that for what you're looking for. If you were to find something else that was like I don't know, if you're using like a leaf spring or something like that, probably similar, that's probably going to be a little bit harder, I'm guessing, than this. So you might want to temper that down to like a dark purple or blue, but again, it's going to be in the light to dark purple range, so you'd probably be in a safe bet even if you're just use the leaf spring as it is. Also, you should never really hit the hammer to the anvil face, because likely this hammer and anvil are about a similar hardness, and one could crack, but as you're forging, you're not going to be hitting the face, so you shouldn't have any problems with that.